The Hyundai Tucson has always been in the shadows of the Honda CR-V and the Toyota Rav4. But this 2022 Hyundai Tucson is trying things very differently to step out of the shadows. So has it worked? Let's go for a drive and find out. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold your horses, because there's an alternative to the alternative. The 2021 Ford Escape Hybrid has also gone through a complete overhaul last year, and it too is trying things differently to stand out. So then the question is, which one of these two compact crossover hybrid SUVs is best? And more importantly, can they both step out of the shadows of the Honda and Toyota rivals? Now, let's go for a drive and find out. So one of the biggest changes to this 2022 Hyundai Tucson, apart from the way it looks, is what's under the hood. You can get it with a gasoline-only engine, or a hybrid powertrain like how I have here, or a plug-in hybrid powertrain, but that one isn't going to arrive until later in 2021, late summer, early fall. This hybrid powertrain has a 1.6-liter turbocharged four-cylinder, as well as a 59 horsepower electric motor. The total system output is 227 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. Compared to all the other compact hybrid SUVs like the Honda CR-V, Rav4 hybrid, and the Escape hybrid, this is the most powerful. And the great thing is, it actually feels like it's the most powerful of the bunch, because as soon as you just gently roll on the throttle, you feel that surge in torque from the electric motor. And better yet, this engine is mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission, not a CVT, so you don't get that elastic band feeling when you put your foot down. Mind you, you do have to wait quite a bit for the transmission to react to your throttle inputs. It takes at least a good second before the time you put your foot down to the time that the transmission actually engages the correct gear that it wants. By comparison, the Ford Escape Hybrid has to make do with only 200 horsepower and 155 pound-feet of torque. But that's enough for everyday use. The big difference though is that this has a more powerful electric motor, 128 horsepower versus 59 horsepower in the Tucson Hybrid. And that makes a difference when you're setting off from a stop. It's much easier to get going from a stop on electricity alone in this Escape Hybrid than it is in the Tucson Hybrid. So that has a huge difference on the fuel economy. In the Tucson Hybrid, it is rated for 6.6 liters per 100 kilometers on a highway and 6.3 liters per 100 kilometers in a city. This Escape Hybrid is rated for 6.4 liters per 100 kilometers on a highway and 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers in a city. Both of these fuel economy numbers are with all-wheel drive, of course. In the real world, you can actually get better fuel economy numbers than what these vehicles are rated for. So in the Tucson Hybrid, during my time with the car, I actually averaged 6.1 liters per 100 kilometers, and that's a combined fuel economy number. So city highway driving. With this Escape Hybrid, I've been driving it for a little over 600 kilometers now, and I'm averaging 4.8 liters per 100 kilometers. Furthermore, this Escape Hybrid has a normal-sized fuel tank, and because of that low fuel economy number, if you're gentle on the throttle, of course, you can actually go up to 1,000 kilometers between fuel stops. But unlike the Tucson Hybrid, the Escape Hybrid uses a CVT automatic. It's fantastic for milking the most fuel economy out of the engine, but not so good when you're driving more enthusiastically. It's just put your foot down and you go, and that's it. There's nothing engaging about the way this transmission makes the powertrain feel. Both SUVs recoup some electrical energy through regenerative braking, neither of which have adjustable levels of regen braking, but there is a slightly noticeable difference between the strength of regen braking in the sport and normal drive modes in both vehicles. The brake pedal feel is progressive throughout, and you don't notice the changeover from regen braking to normal friction braking, which is a good thing. Around corners, the 2022 Tucson feels more athletic than the Escape. Granted, neither of these crossovers are meant to be the sporty trims in their respective lineups, but between the two, I'd rather be driving the Tucson on a winding road than the Escape. This 2022 Hyundai Tucson can, of course, drive only on electricity for brief periods, which means that when it is only driving on electricity, it's very quiet in here. The only thing that you'll really hear is a little bit of noise from the tires. Wind noise is pretty much non-existent. When the engine does have to kick in, it's surprisingly quiet. Of course, if you do take it up to, let's say, 4,000 RPMs, you will hear it, and it doesn't sound that great. But most of the time, I've actually noticed that it doesn't really want to go past about 2,500 RPMs. In the Ford Escape, it's exactly the same when driving on electricity. You do tend to hear a little bit of spaceship noises coming from the electric motor and the pedestrian detection noise system that every electric vehicle has to have, but it's very quiet when driving on electricity. When the engine has to kick in, it is a smooth transition from electricity to the gasoline engine taking over, but you do hear that engine more than you do in the Tucson hybrid. I'm not saying that it's obnoxiously loud or anything like that, but if you pay attention, you will notice it a bit more than in the Tucson. Stepping inside the 2022 Hyundai Tucson, it feels like you've actually stepped in a Genesis product because the whole redesign looks much more premium and upscale than it used to look like. The key focal point of this new interior is obviously going to be the new infotainment system with a 10.25-inch touchscreen. Underneath it, there are some quick access buttons as well as the climate control. However, they are no longer physical buttons and there's no volume or tuning knobs. So these controls are, well, they are very easy to use, but physical buttons and especially a volume knob are something that everyone still wants. As well, it's piano black plastic, so fingerprints and dust are easily going to show. Right here on the center console, you do have some physical buttons for the heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, and parking cameras, as well as buttons for the shifter. In terms of space, in this new Hyundai Tucson, there is plenty of it up here in the front. Even with this gigantic panoramic sunroof, which extends all the way to the back headrest, there is loads of headroom. Knee room, plentiful for my 6'4" stature. Let's go sit in the back and see how that is. Because this new generation of the Hyundai Tucson has a slightly longer wheelbase, you really notice it back here. This seat is in my driving position and look, my knees are nowhere near touching the back of the seat. So now it actually has more rear legroom than the Honda CR-V, which was always the king of all these compact SUVs when it came to rear legroom. There's also heated seats on the outboards positions, of course, not on the center, and they're pretty comfortable, although the bench is a little bit on the firm side. One really nice thing is that the center hump is actually a really low profile, so it is here, but it's much smaller than in other compact SUVs. Oh, and also this panoramic sunroof, like I said, it really does extend all the way to the back headrest. Oh, and one more thing I almost forgot. The seats recline. Always a nice touch. Let's go see the trunk. And in the trunk, you'll have just under 1,100 liters of cargo volume with the rear seats up. That's actually more cargo volume than the Ford Escape, Honda CR-V, and the Toyota Rav4 Hybrid. Fold those rear seats down and you'll be getting a little over 2,100 liters of cargo volume. Only the Toyota Rav4 Hybrid has just a tiny bit more than this, but even so, that's a lot of space. And of course, power tailgate. And if you walk up to the car with the key in your pocket while it's locked and stand right here for about 5 seconds, the tailgate will open. Inside the Escape, it's a little bit more traditional in terms of the styling. You have an 8-inch touchscreen with Sync 3 infotainment system, but you do have physical tuning knobs and volume knobs for the infotainment system, or radio I should say, and there are physical buttons for the climate control. In front of the driver there is a digital display which is very legible and very easy to understand, and this particular demo vehicle also has wireless phone charging and a rotary knob for the gear selector. So pretty straightforward and, like I said, very traditional looking compared to the Hyundai Tucson. In terms of space, legroom, no problem at all. Headroom, no problem at all. One thing to note though is the seats. These ones are leather, and the leather is much softer than that in the Tucson, and there's also quite a bit of padding on these front seats. So in terms of comfort, I actually prefer these seats more than I do in the Tucson. Anyway, let's go sit in the back. The back seat area is not quite as spacious as that in the Hyundai Tucson. The seat is in my driving position and my knees are brushing up against the back. There's a nice indentation here for your knees, but it's still not quite as spacious as in the Hyundai Tucson. Panoramic sunroof, again, extends all the way to the back, which is really nice. And these seats can slide forwards and backwards and, of course, recline as well. So that's always a nice feature. Plus, just like in the Hyundai Tucson, this has a very low profile center hump and USB ports, USB-A and USB-C as well. As for cargo capacity in the Ford Escape, it is less than the Tucson, but only by about 120 liters at 974 liters of cargo volume with the rear seats up. Fold them down and cargo capacity increases to 1,852 liters. Both vehicles can be similarly equipped, but the Tucson can be equipped more than the other. It has extra gadgets such as ventilated front seats, surround view cameras, smart park via remotes, and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The Ford Escape does not have the extra features, but it does have one really good thing going for it, and that is the price. The hybrid variant starts at $32,100 Canadian for the SE trim. A top-spec titanium trim starts at $37,000 Canadian. By comparison, the 2022 Hyundai Tucson Hybrid starts at $38,900 Canadian for the luxury trim and $41,600 for the ultimate trim. In the United States, the Tucson has 3 trims to choose from: Blue, SEL Convenience, and Limited, which range in starting prices from $29,000 to $37,350 American. As for styling, the Tucson is trying really hard to stand out. It has a very subtle isn't the right word, imposing front grille. The LED daytime running lights are integrated into the grille, as are the turn signals. To the side, it has sharp edges all along the body, and around back it has a bit of a Ford Mach-E vibe going for it, with the similar horizontal and vertical taillight arrangement. The Ford Escape is much more subtle in its looks, almost forgettable when it sits next to the Tucson. So in the end, which one is best? Overall, between the two, I'd have to say the 2022 Tucson is. It's more powerful, has a more aesthetically pleasing interior, more spacious interior, and it feels a bit more refined. But the Tucson can't hold a stick next to the Ford Escape's impressive fuel economy numbers and low starting price. A more important question: have these two stepped out of the shadows of the best sellers in the class, the Honda CR-V and the Toyota Rav4? I think the Tucson has, but the Escape still has a bit of an uphill battle. Anyway, if you want to know more about both of these vehicles, I wrote more detailed reviews of them over on my website. You can find those links in the video description. And as always, I will see you in the next car or truck or most likely another pair of SUVs. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.